Kia ora, cinnamon green, natural living being. Thought it's about time for another coffee and korero. Sun's in my eyes today and I'm a bit squinty, can't really see the screen very well, so I have no idea what this looks like. But that's kind of how I roll, no filter. And that's kind of, I guess, where my mind's been today, a little bit no filter. Without getting into personal details, life's been really challenging of late. And it's brought up a lot of really interesting concepts to think about, moving forward in my own life, as much as, this new world that we're trying to promote and create, trying to find a way back to some semblance of freedom and community or common unity. And that just keeps me thinking, common unity. What common themes unite us? And what common themes divide us, apart from the obvious ones that are going on at the moment, health, wealth, status, things like that. And when there is a disconnect and we're not unified in certain things, how to navigate that and what's sort of best. I don't think there is a correct, I don't think there is a right or wrong. We all have our own lives and our own wants, needs, boundaries, and desires. And I think the more I learn about common unity, the law of one, common law as well, the more I find that the unity is the part that really matters. And sure, there is definitely certain aspects of each other that we can learn to live with, even when they're not unified or aligned with us. But we have to be really careful around that, because that can very easily slip into breaking down our own boundaries, not standing up for things when we feel that they don't align with us. We are really at a point in time, I think, where the idea of community and working together is amazing, but it's also potentially fraught with other problems and issues. And the more I learn about common law and the law of one, the more I realize that there's a certain amount of scripture, it doesn't really matter what religion that you look at, that is really relevant to building our new world. And I'm not saying go be religious, join a church, follow a cult. I'm saying do unto others as you wish to do or have done to yourself. And just really honestly treat others with the same dignity and respect that you wish to be treated with. When you hit a point of disconnect or misalignment, those moments can be really hard. I've hit some serious misaligned, disconnected moments in the last week, with really, really big parts of my life that essentially have kind of dictated my happiness as much as I've allowed it to. And it's really gotten to a point where I have to ask myself that question of, is my want to be unified with things that are misaligned to me causing me to break down my own boundaries, put aside my own desires, wants, and needs, my own actual just basic human rights sometimes. And it's really interesting where these themes come up in our lives and how they challenge us. They can really come from the most unexpected places. And that triggers us deeply, I think. Mostly into growth, but can also trigger us into drinking Bacardi or sleeping all day or throwing a blind eye and ignoring those flags and continuing on. So it's really important, I think, at this time when we're trying to build this new world, to really ask ourselves deeply what alignments we most hold dear and above all else. And we seek out humans and community that uphold those particular alignments above all else. That sure, there's things that you can negotiate on and that you can work around, but some things are non-negotiable. And they need to be. They need to be for our own fulfillment and self-worth. And that's different for everybody. So I really see that this new world could be quite an interesting place. And it could have lots of different areas where people who uphold certain values can come together and enjoy each other in that space. But also that there's the polarity of that, and whatever spaces are created, there will be the opposite. There will be the equal at the other end of that polarization scale. So of course there will be places where people want to build gardens and have community. There might be places where people want to live in the city and live on the internet. And that's okay. Just as much as there are people who believe in Western medicine and will continue down that route, there are people who believe that, our plants are our healers and medicine should be 90% preventative and functional. But I'm not just talking about physical health and social alignment. I'm talking about our hearts and our desires as well. I've recently had to face the fact that I've been extremely misaligned in my heart. Essentially with my own children. And that's been a really difficult road to navigate. I'm far from having navigated all the way through it. I know that all things change, nothing stays the same. But within that, I think one of my non-negotiables is there needs to be a certain amount of solidarity between people. And when your whole world is rocking like that, it's really hard to figure out where and how to create that. And I've really taught myself and realized in these last couple weeks. As much as I would love a community that aligned with my values and my common goals, it's also quite highly unlikely that will actually happen in the way that maybe the fairy tales and our fantasies would like it to be. There's always going to be a certain amount of disconnect, no matter how much you think you're on the right track, or you've done all the right things, or that your boundaries and desires are, justified and healthy. There's always a possibility that they're not in someone else's eyes. And that disconnect and that misalignment just really, really brought home to me how solitary we are as humans, partly because of these ideas, these narratives that we hold so dear to our identity, I suppose. Just that no two people can actually want the same things. And that there's always going to have to be a certain amount of agree to disagree in our lives. That within all that connection and all that sharing, we really have to allow for the individual to just be, thrive and nourish themselves, and not be, I suppose, accountable for how others react. I know I am a reactor. I'm not saying this from a point of feeling I'm above either polarity end of the scale. I know I'm a reactor as much as I am a trigger for other people. And I think that this whole life is just about experience. I think we do get to choose what experiences we want and what experiences are most important for us to uphold as our personal wants, wishes, dreams, desires, non-negotiables. I think the part that we always forget is that there is a consequence to those non-negotiables. And the consequence might be never having those wants, dreams, desires fulfilled, because they are a fantasy in our mind. And to find someone else, let alone an entire community of people, that truly aligns on every level in a way that's sustainable and ongoing, the odds seem really small. I'm dyslexic, I can't do maths, so if anyone wants to tell me what the odds are on that, that'd be amazing. But I feel like it would be trillions upon trillions upon trillions to a negative number. Because no matter how alike we are, it's the individuality in us that makes this world amazing and scary and treacherous. So it's really about picking a few core things in your life that are non-negotiable and important, and leading with them, I think. And making sure that you're first really clear in yourself about what they are. so that when you do lead with them with other people, there's no question about the situation you're talking about. There's no question about wrong or right. It's just drawing up a roadmap to see if there is a way through. And it's really difficult when you are misaligned with people deeply close to you, almost part of you when they're your children, and you have to draw that roadmap with human beings who, yes, our common goal is the child, and our common unity is, the want and love for this human being to have the best world possible. But when those two adults have an extremely opposing view of what that is, that roadmap has these almost insurmountable challenges already written in. And learning how to move forward through that is a trip and a half. Now that's just one analogy. I've got a whole lot of roadmaps to draw with a whole lot of important parts of my life at the moment. And I think it's about picking out the stops along the way that are the most important. And as we come across other community with common unity, we can clearly draw our map and our points of interest in a way that will really quickly show us who might be able to help us navigate, who might be keen to be on that particular journey. Who's able to work around and navigate your particular non-negotiables. It's not always the people that you hope or think. And I think that's the thing I'm learning, is sometimes that path is a really lonely one, and maybe we only cross paths of common unity for glimpses of our lifetime instead of whole chapters. And maybe that's the point, is the glimpses. And what do we want those glimpses to look like? What do we want to be left with from them? And what do we want to gift to others in those moments, those pit stops of common unity? So today, I think, is more about asking questions deeply in your soul about your personal roadmap, and clarifying what your pit stops are, clarifying the common points and the areas we can share with others openly, comfortably, without inviting more trauma or breaking down our barriers. And what parts we have to offer to others within safety and unity, within our own path. So there's my coffee and korero for today. Getting clear on your roadmap, deciding what your most important points of common unity are, and what our non-negotiable boundaries need to be in order to be able to be clear with others and connect with others on a really truthful, holistic level. I don't pretend it's easy, and I don't pretend I know how to do that. But I do know I can have a coffee and a korero and share my thoughts with anyone who might find them helpful. There's my first pit stop, my roadmap to common unity and finding my community. Put out my thoughts and see what happens. Remember, above all else, to love yourself, because that's where it all starts, in the healing and the accepting of ourselves. Naturally, the next step becomes loving each other, because once we realize that we are divine and amazing, we realize that we are part of one source energy and that everybody else out there is just a different expression of that. And always remember, even if I don't like you, even if we have no common unity, even if our roadmaps look completely different, even if you are one of my struggles and hurdles and challenges, I still love you, because we are all one.